What is up, comic fam? I'm Mark, and welcome to the Legion of Comics. Today, we're going to be taking a look at one of the most beloved anti-heroes in all of comicdom. So get ready for a comic close-up with the first appearance of Deadpool. All right, guys, be sure to hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share the video out. I'm having a lot of fun making these. I'm really excited. This is the third issue of Comic Close-Up, and we're going to be doing an in-depth look at the first appearance of none other than Deadpool, a lot of people's fan favorite characters. He's one of the biggest anti-heroes in Marvel Comics today. So before we do that, before we look at that, we have to go back before that New Mutants 98 issue to where he came from with his creator. So he was created by none other than Rob Liefeld, and issue 98 of New Mutants has a release date of December 11th, 1990, but a cover date of February 91. So Rob Liefeld is very known in the comic community. In the 80s, he just exploded with some of the most dynamic art out there. He was one of the main people that were crucial to the creation of Image Comics along with Todd McFarlane. So Rob Liefeld made big ripples through the comic community all over the place. And this is probably one of his most known characters to date. So New Mutants 98, it's not just the first appearance of Deadpool, but as you see from the cover, we have Gideon and Domino both making their first appearances in there. So it was a big issue. And believe it or not, that's not actually Domino on the cover. That was a whole curveball that we found out later that this is actually Copycat. Domino wouldn't come to make her first appearance until a later issue of X-Force. So as a lot of people know who are familiar with Rob Liefeld and his art and his style, he's known to borrow from inspirations, or I don't know if it's his subconscious or not, but Deadpool himself as a character is almost a borrowed character. And, his name is Wade Wilson, which sounds a lot like Slade Wilson. He's a mercenary, much like a DC Comics mercenary. I wonder who it could be. So could it possibly be that he borrowed from DC Comics with this character? Is Deadpool heavily inspired by Deathstroke, or is it a straight rip? Either way, it's really cool that we have both of these characters in their existing universes, and I'm definitely happy to have seen Deadpool really make his mark on fandom like he has. So as we know, like, Deadpool's been around since 1991, but he really didn't start hitting public eye until way later. It was later when other creators picked him up and started working with him that he started becoming who we know and recognize today is that funny chimichanga eating character who breaks the fourth wall and is heavy with the sarcasm, this and that. It was existent. It did happen in his first appearance, but not at all on the level that we come to expect today. It wasn't until the early 2000s when people really started knowing who Deadpool was, with a less than fantastic X-Men Origins Wolverine movie, where we saw this weird butchered version of Deadpool, where he started out as Ryan Reynolds, and later he became this amalgam of all these other characters with no mouth, and he can shoot eye lasers and teleport, and had claws coming out of his arms. It just was not well received at all from fans. But the casting job of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool it was so spot on that it wasn't until 2016 that we finally got a proper R-rated spot on Deadpool movie from Sony. And then it did so well in 2018. We got the sequel for it. And now that Marvel has bought up the Sony properties, it looks like he's going to be getting phased into the MCU. So we're going to be expecting to see more of Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool over there. And I'm just hoping that they play it right, and that we get that consistent, funny, R-rated, not over the top, and like production value and all this. Because those have been simple movies, really simple, but perfect, absolutely perfectly done. So let's go no farther until we take a look inside the pages of New Mutants 98 for a comic close-up. All right, so let's take a look at New Mutants, issue 98. And as you see, this is a newsstand copy, and it's a little beat up. It's definitely not a 9.8 contender, but that's not the important part. The important part is actually checking out and taking a comic close-up of the first appearance of Deadpool, which is also the first appearance of Gideon, and as the cover says, Domino, who turns out to not actually be Domino. This is actually Copycat taking her place currently. But right off the bat, first page, full splash, we get the first appearance of Gideon, and he spends a couple of pages with this awesome 90s horizontal style, like little gimmicks that they would do. But he's in there training and figuring out and plotting his move against Acosta to try to get rid of them. So it goes for a little while. We meet these little characters working for him, and then we switch over to Cable, who's training, and Cannonball comes in wanting to train as well. And they start working on some of the finer details of Cannonball's abilities, trying to be more quiet with his cannon boom. And we move on forward. They continue doing that, trying to hone his powers. We move over and we see DaCosta's tower where he actually gets poisoned and killed. So we saw that plan executed. Moving forward, we see Boom Boom and Richter complaining about their woes of the day, and they hear a noise and they go running into the training room to find Cable getting nailed. And we turn the page and there it is. The first appearance of Deadpool, page 18 of New Mutants 98. So he comes in a nice little awesome full drawing of him there, comes in talking, and he actually addresses Cable by his first name, Nathan, where this is the comic where we first revealed that Cable's name is actually Nathan. So he lets him know that he's the guy he's looking for, and Tolliver sent him to execute him due to the beef that Cable and Tolliver have. And right when Cable's about, it's about to be lights out for Cable, and then you see Cannonball sneaking up on him, and he nails him. And so that move that they were training earlier, he put it into play and snuck up behind Deadpool. So Deadpool starts throwing tricks all out of his sleeves, taking him apart, gets knocked out by Cable. They continue the fight. He shows to be a formidable fighting person here. Like he knifes him in the leg. He has him dead to rights again. And then he gets nailed by Richter. So here comes Richter, Sunspot, Boom Boom. And instead of Deadpool running, he decides what order to take them out in, taking Richter out first as he's the most dangerous. And he's there sizing up Boom Boom and Sunspot. And you see thunk, thunk, thunk. And right in his back, a bunch of knives were hit, and in comes the first appearance of Domino, which we later find out is Copycat. But as for this issue, it is Domino until you find out in those later issues of X-Force that it was Copycat standing in. So this turns out to be somebody that Cable had called in, one of his friends from the past, and the team starts looking at their situation and how to move forward and what to do with Deadpool. And this is actually the first time that we get to see the piece of that personality that he's so iconic for, always joking and playing around and stuff, where they're trying to figure out what to do with him. And he suggests a rehabilitation center or a prison in the Bahamas, jokingly. And the team's looking at how Cable is actually happy with his time with Domino, and little do they know what's to come later. But he find out that the plan they went with was they gagged him, tied him up, put him in a box, and mailed him Federal Express back to Tolliver. And then the issue ends with Richter running away and Gideon coming up to Roberto to tell him that his father died from a heart attack. And then it's to be continued from there. A nice Three Musketeers ad in the back, a little catalog for some Marvel books, and it ends with the back cover having a glorious Punisher ad for the Super Nintendo video game, or the Nintendo, I'm sorry. So that was a comic close-up of New Mutants 98. So as you see, it was a jam-packed issue. It started with the big first appearance of Gideon, but rolled right over into the cast of characters for the book, doing all kinds of cool stuff. Though there wasn't a lot of villain interaction, there was a lot of action in the book. And Deadpool came in strong. You know, he was bearing the characteristics that we know him today for, even in that first issue. I know that those later creators get a lot of credit for making Deadpool who he is, that it wasn't necessarily Liefeld, but it was all present in that issue. In that very first appearance, you know, he had that comical lines. He did not care what happened to him. They didn't go into his power set much, but you see him get stabbed numerous times and just minor bandages afterwards. So everything about him, you can kind of trace back to that first issue. So in my mind, that is 100% Rob Liefeld that should get credit for this character. Now, if anyone develops or makes it bigger, that's perfectly fine. But all of those elements for that character are in there. So let's take a quick look at how this book values out. So CGC 9.8s right now have been selling consistently right under $2,000. And as you can see, this is something that makes Deadpool happy. That's his happy face. But we're seeing sales of 1825, 1705, 1853. I mean, they're pretty consistent. Pretty consistent. They're staying up there. Even raw copies of the book are selling for over $300, $230. So that's a very fine condition book at $230. I'm guessing mine, that copy that y'all saw me flip through, that one would probably be in the sevens, maybe an 8 with a good clean and press. So that's pretty much all we have for today. I do want to say that that book is about to be going out to my channel sponsor, Justin, to get cleaned and pressed, and it's going to be sent to CGC from there. So if you're looking to get anything cleaned or pressed, be sure to hit him up on Instagram. Use that promo code WeAreLegion and get buy two, get that third one free. And also a big shout out to Big Time Collectibles. If you're in the market for any retailer exclusives, they are the best in the game. Mystery boxes, they have their holiday boxes, they have the Venom boxes. They're constantly doing all kinds of amazing things. Be sure to follow them on Instagram and Facebook and keep up when all these exclusives drop. All right, guys, be sure to leave me a comment. I'd love some feedback on these. I'm going to continue trying to evolve the way I'm doing them to make them more and more, I don't know, production-y. I'm trying to play with it a little bit. So I would really appreciate feedback on this. These videos specifically, these comic close-up, I'm trying, because I really enjoy these. I really enjoy them a lot. I think that looking at the history in the comic books and all that kind of stuff is really fun. And actually stopping, opening up a book and flipping through the pages of an issue that a lot of people might not own or have had the chance to flip through or be willing to flip through because they might have bought one that's already graded. As I said, this one's going to CGC, but I wanted to be sure to do this first so that I get a chance to flip through my book, so that everyone gets a chance to look at it who might not have that same opportunity. So please leave me some feedback. Let me know if you're enjoying these or what you might like to see different. And I'm going to do my best to try to implement some of those into the future videos. Also, if there's a specific character, event, key issue, anything that you'd be interested in seeing that you have not had a chance to flip through, leave a comment. Let me know, and I'll try to integrate that in. I think next week's, I've got figured out who I want to do. But yeah, until next time, guys, as always, I'm Mark, but we are Legion.